now I would like to take you a bit closer to our very own business. Obviously, in the Volvo Group, we are using plastic in our products and our operations, but we're doing it in a sustainable, responsible way. I would like to bring some best practices to you. Actually, we could have dedicated an entire event on best practices that we find across the organization on this topic. Maybe we'll do that another time, but for one day, for today, I have a couple of stories to bring to you. And the first one will be told by Urban Elfsberg, who is a true specialist on plastic. He comes from GTT. He's been exploring the possibilities of plastic for the past 23 years. I mean, we have only one of him in the organization. And Urban will tell us about how we use plastic in our products, why we actually use plastic, the benefits of it, and how we actually do it in a responsible way. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Urban.
Thank you, Celine. I think starting here, I mean, it's really hard to imagine a day without plastics. I mean, standing here with a remote controller in plastic in my hand, you usually probably have your phones close to you in plastic. I mean, we touch a lot of things in plastic every day. If you drove here, you have your steering wheel. If you took your bike, you probably have your plastic helmet on top of your head. I mean, we meet plastic. Almost everything we touch today, handles, whatever buttons you touch, everything's plastic today. So it's really hard to imagine a world without plastic. But I mean, it's important to handle plastic in a good way, so it doesn't end up in the ocean or anywhere else it shouldn't be. So I think the increasing use of plastics, especially in products and overall, will not really change still. It will probably increase for a while more at least. But it's important that it ends up in a good way. And I mean, if we're looking at, there, on an old truck, you have on the right side here, you see an old truck from 70s. There was very, very few plastic parts, almost none. But if you're looking at the modern truck, the modern FH you have here, you see I try to mark the areas where I have plastic, both on the exterior and the interior side. There's a lot of plastic parts. It's actually roughly more than half a ton of plastic in every single truck. And that still is less than 10% of the total weight of the truck, but it's still a lot of plastic compared to what we have not that many years ago. So, I mean, from my point of view, I was a technical specialist. I want to have a lot of plastic, of course, maybe. But what's the reason behind of this? Why do we have a lot of plastic parts today in our trucks? I mean, the main driver is to save weight. And as you all know, saving weight will also save fuel consumption or add to load capacity in the end. One thing, if you compare on the density of the materials, you see the plastic is roughly 1/8 of the weight per volume compared to steel. But of course, they don't really have exactly the same properties. But it opens up a very good opportunity to change, to go down in weight by going to the plastic parts. The second important part is actually that you can shape a plastic part in a mold to exactly that specific shape of the mold. So you can put the material exactly where you want to have it. And you don't have to take away material to get a specific shape of a part. If you're looking here, you see a picture down here. It's a load carrier of the big front shelf we have above the windscreen in the new FH. So it's roughly 2.2 meters wide, some 15 centimeters high. And this carries a load for everything you can store into the storage area in the front shelf. And this replaces then some 15 to 18 parts compared to the old construction with a lot of metal parts. This is much, much more light, probably only 70% of the weight. So we probably have 30% weight on this certain area. Still, so when you see, it's a lot of strange areas, but that's a really important thing. But it was good, of course, also looking at cost situation. If I can do this very strange, complicated part directly out of the tool, I don't have to spend a lot of hours on it afterwards, and I don't have to assemble a lot of small parts to get the big part. So it's also cost efficient. So it's a cost efficient way to save weight, which is easier to implement and get up and running then. It's also reducing the part that we need to assemble in our production. The third main reason, maybe it's not that obvious, but if you take metal sheets, you end up, or even if you took wood panels, you end up with very sharp shapes usually. But since you're able to shape it in the mold, the plastic, you can easily create soft radius. This is good for ergonomics when you reach around, it's good for crash situation. You can also put the material where you need it, so you can create the right kind of energy absorption from crash situation. So it's good to create a safe and comfortable interior by having plastic, because you can do a lot of good things by shaping the parts in the right way and put the material exactly where you want to have it. So now I talked a lot about why plastic is good, but I mean, what we're talking about here today is to use it in a sustainable way. So what can we do then? I mean, first of all, we want to have plastic. We don't want it to end up as plastic waste. So, I mean, we should be able to recycle our parts. So when we start designing a truck, designing the part, we must think about the recycling, the second life of the plastic, that we're able to take out the plastics and reuse them somehow. So that's really important for us when we design parts, to design for assembly, design for recycling, sorry. And also to use a limited mix of materials, because there's a lot of different plastics. But by trying to limit that to a certain number of plastics, we're able to get bigger volumes of the certain specific plastics, easier to recycle in the second life, because of course you get fewer parts that you have to separate from each other. There's international standard how to mark plastic parts, so you can, anywhere in the world, because we don't know where our truck ends up in 10 years when you should disassemble it. Maybe it ends up in Africa somewhere, or it can be somewhere in Asia, it could be somewhere in Europe. But you need to have an international standard that defines how the plastics are marked, so anywhere it ends up, you should be able to see, all right, that this material, these materials should go together. So all parts are marked like this. Must also look into an easy disassembly situation, so you're able to put them apart. That's always much more complex, because you also need to assemble them easy, and they must be put together on the lifetime of the truck. So there's always hard to find a good way forward. Another thing we can do with the plastic parts we have is to optimize them. So if the first generation was lightweight, only going from metal to plastics, the second generation could be optimizing the plastics in a better way, so we can use less plastic for the same function. Do lighter plastic parts, do the same function with less plastics, but still in plastic. Now I talked about the good to recycle material, but I mean, who will be using the recycled materials? I mean, if we don't use the recycled materials, I mean, we don't really get anywhere. So we start to use recycled plastics in our trucks, because someone needs to start using them, and we should do it, and everyone else, of course, as well. But the good question, why don't we only use recycled materials? Would it be nice to only use recycled plastics? If you look at, we have a lot of plastic recycled. You saw before, 40% of the plastic volume are packaging materials. And they come in different colors, whatever. A lot of the recycled materials are packaging materials from beginning, currently what's on the market. And meaning in the end that there's a lot of different colors, meaning that we're back to the Henry Ford situation. You can get any color you want as long as it's black. Not fully true, but a lot of recycled material are black, which limitations give to where we can use it, wherever inside, or we want to have more than only black parts. But you also have to take into account the history of the material, actually. If you're looking at the packaging, it could be in washing detergent with perfume. That will actually migrate into the plastic. We don't want our new truck to smell of some old perfume. So you need to specify exactly what kind of properties you need, and not too many. So you need to be more specific when you specify the materials you should use. And then you have to take into account what kind of history of material, or what kind of raw material, or so say recycled material you can use for that specific part. But not over-specifying, but specifying actually what you need. So we must be better in specifying material when we use recycled material than we use virgin materials. So you can say something, cost situation is a bit interesting, because of course oil is the base of normal plastic. So normal plastic will follow the oil price variation. So depending on where you are in that variation cycle, recycled material could be more expensive or maybe slightly cheaper than virgin material. And of course, we need to have an understanding that that will change. It will not be a stable situation because this recycled material is much more stable. So we will have a variation over time depending on what way we go. Probably something we need to learn. Trying to sum up a little bit here. There's a bit, I mean, usage of plastic will probably increase in our trucks to continue to save weight. But because we want to get less fuel consumption, very easy. They will remain important, but it's important to increase the use of recycled material. And I think the really important thing here is that we can avoid the plastic waste to be waste, to make it actually become a valuable raw material, because in that case, it will not end up anywhere, because people will have to take care of it, because it's valuable for them. They can make money out of it. Thank you.